I felt I had struck gold when I first met Elena, because she exuded confidence and boldness. She appeared to brighten every space she entered. I was a man who flourished on discipline and regularity, managing my modest yet flourishing restaurant, business, while she was a creative and vivacious event coordinator. Her spontaneity complemented my steadfastness, and our relationship was the ideal balance. We created a life together that made everyone jealous. At least, that's how I perceived it. The flaws in our marriage didn't show up right away. They gradually infiltrated under the pretext of prolonged work stress, long hours, and social responsibilities, which I told myself was typical of married life. It was natural for the spark to slightly wane. After all, we were 8 years in. But in the back of our minds, her phone began quietly vibrating late at night, and I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something wasn't right. When she read his work messages, she would immediately swipe them away, laughing a little too loudly. I dismissed it, at first, as casual conversations with her friends. But later on in the evening, she texted me from her workplace to say she was stuck, working on a large assignment. I would go to bed alone. A few hours later, she would sneak in. The turning point for me was when her scent was still fresh, and she gave evasive reasons that didn't quite sit right. Her tone began to shift. She was still amiable and interesting, but there was a sarcastic quality to her speech that hadn't been there before. Small remarks began to appear. "Adrian, why don't you ever dress up for dinner anymore? Perhaps your business would be more fascinating if you took more chances." Sometimes the words are just too predictable. They hurt. But I convinced myself they weren't dangerous, because marriages evolve. People go through difficult times and change. But what I couldn't ignore was the feeling, like she was comparing me to someone else, someone I didn't even know existed yet. It all came to a head at a family get-together at Sophie's. Sophie had been one of Elena's best friends since college. The evening at her house was meant to be fun. Elena informed me it was to celebrate Sophie's parents' wedding anniversary. The family had always been friendly and inviting, and despite my reluctance, I agreed to go. I hoped that spending time with Elena in a laid-back environment would help relieve the tension. She spent hours choosing her outfit, doing her makeup, scrolling through her phone, so enthusiastic about the gathering. When I teased her about the effort she was putting in for a simple dinner party, she messaged me, "Adrien, it's not just any party." It was both amusing and annoying. Sophie's family always goes above and beyond, so you should try a little too. I dismissed her remark, pulled on my standard slacks and a button-down shirt. I didn't want to impress people, who already knew me. But when we got to the house, her reaction left a bad taste in my mouth. The place was bustling with activity. Sophie's parents were ecstatic, hugging everyone, laughing as I greeted familiar faces. And then, Elena was instantly drawn to Eric. Tall, well-dressed, that arrogant smile. I already detested him. I'd seen Eric a few times before, always at events Elena hosted. He was the type who loved attention, who made everyone in the room feel special while making you feel small, subtly, imperceptibly. Like a moth to a flame, my wife seemed to orbit around him. As the evening went on, I tried to ignore the dull sensation growing in my chest. I caught up with older guests, joked with Sophie's brother Marcus, who was always good for a laugh, but every time I looked over, she was laughing at Eric's jokes. Her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months. She brushed his arm. Gently, I told myself to relax. I was imagining it, but by the time dinner was served, I was coiled tighter than a spring. Eric's smirk when he caught me glancing at them told me everything I needed to know. Something was happening. And for the first time, I didn't think I could pretend it wasn't. Eric was the type of man you notice, even if you don't want to. He had a tall, athletic build, confidence that bordered on arrogance, and a charm that could fill a room. First heard of him during one of Elena's post-work stories. Eric had this amazing idea for the gala, or Eric handled that client so well. At first, I chalked it up to professional admiration, but over the months, his name came up too often. Eric wasn't just a colleague. He had seeped into our personal lives. I'd ask Elena if she felt rejuvenated from her events. She'd nod absently, still smiling from something Eric had said hours ago. I met him once, properly, at one of Elena's business gatherings. He introduced himself with a confident handshake and said smoothly, "So, Adrian, I've heard a lot about you. Ayla says you're a solid guy." He was sizing me up. I felt it. That entire evening, I watched him command the room, charm everyone, and Elena, she was by his side, beaming at his jokes like they were the best thing she'd ever heard. I wasn't even there. I told myself I was being paranoid. But I knew. He wasn't just a harmless coworker. Late nights at work became more frequent. Her excuses remained the same. Eric's just trying to wrap up this big project. She became more secretive. Her phone flipped face down, alerts dismissed quickly. I'd ask and she'd wave me off. Just work. But her tone didn't match her words. There was something hollow. She started dressing differently. Tighter outfits, taller heels, more effort. When I complimented her, she smiled, but it felt like she was looking past me. That dinner party at Sophie's was supposed to be neutral ground, a place to unwind. But when we arrived, and Eric wrapped her in a hug, his hands lingering a bit. Too long. It hit me hard. He turned to me, flashed a hollow grin, and said, "Good to see you." I shook his hand firmly. He spent the rest of the night shadowing Elena. Whispering, giggling, inside jokes, shared smiles, and I was the invisible man. During dinner, Marcus leaned over and murmured, "Eric's always been charming." I looked at him. His expression said more. He has a way of pushing boundaries. Those words stuck with me. I wanted to press him further, but Marcus was called away. Still, I couldn't let them go. As the evening wore on, I could feel the storm rising in my chest. I kept it together, for now, but I knew this couldn't go on. Not like this.